Ladies and gentlemen, gather around. You see, love is a beautiful thing, right? But let me tell you something. Sometimes love can turn into an intense battle of emotions, boundaries, and trust. Now, don't get it twisted. I'm not talking about the kind of love where you can throw your partner a surprise birthday party and everything's sweet. No, 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 no. This is the kind of love that will test you, push your limits, and force you to ask yourself, am I truly ready for this? In fact, this is the only kind of love that exists. It's highly rewarding, but it will test you and everything you believe in. Now, this right here is a story that involves a Nollywood, an absolute Nollywood rock star, a tough as nails wife, and I mean that respectfully, but actually somewhat as a compliment, and some serious relationship turbulence. The kind of story that will have you thinking, if they can make it, maybe I can too. It's a relationship roller coaster that starts with love, dips into self-discovery, and ends up at a place where hopefully you learn, right? Hopefully you learn that some things are better left unsaid. Trust me, you don't want to miss this one. That's a tip for all my fellow truth tellers. So meet Daniel Etim-Effiong, a successful Nollywood actor, the kind of man many people look up to. He's got the looks, the talent, and let's be honest, the kind of presence that commands attention. But there's one thing that even all that success couldn't prepare him for. A wife who was not just supportive, in fact, very supportive, but assertive. And not just a little assertive. Oh no, she was full on the kind of woman who knows what she wants, when she wants it, and how she wants it. And that, my friends, was where the storm began. You see, Dana wasn't used to the idea of someone challenging him. He was used to being the one calling the shots. But Toyosi, his wife, she wasn't having it. She came in strong, knowing exactly who she was and what she wanted out of the relationship. You know, all the premarital counseling, know what you want, speak what you want, all that kind of stuff. And I can tell you now, it wasn't all smooth sailing from there. It wasn't long before Daniel found himself feeling like he was losing his grip on his own marriage. How? Well, let me break it down. For the first time in his life, he found himself questioning whether he was being a good husband. Well, it was the first time he would be a husband, I think. I mean, who wouldn't, right? Who wouldn't question that? It's one thing to be an assertive partner, but it's another thing to entirely, to be the one who entirely just find themselves questioning themselves, wanting to know, how do I go? How do I move around this? Now, before you start pointing fingers, let me say this. A lot of people have this thing wrong. They think that when someone is assertive, they're being rude or domineering. But nah, that's not always the case. In fact, assertiveness, when done right, is just someone who is expressing themselves. But when done right, though sometimes they come off rude, right? Let's be honest, they come off rude. So you're being assertive in a rude manner. That's usually not your intentions, I get it. But for Daniel, for example, it was all a challenge, and a big one at that. He felt like he couldn't keep up. He thought, wait a minute, am I losing control? Is this what it feels like to not be a man, or to lose your position as a man in your own home? And that, my friends, is where the friction began. So to make matters worse, Daniel had a whole lot of women surrounding him, the industry rock star, Nollywood, the kind of women would think they can call at any time of the night. The kind would drop those, hey, just checking in, those kind of messages, right? The one that they're not really about checking in at all. And listen, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to know that this wasn't going to run well with Toyosi. It wasn't sitting well with her, right? So Daniel eventually learned that his boundaries were being tested in ways he wasn't prepared for. I'm sure he probably initially argued with Toyosi that it wasn't a big deal, or accusing her of overreacting to non-issues. And I get it. How? Because I was Daniel about 15 years ago. I can relate. Some of these women were just friends. But boundaries? What boundaries? They're just friends. He hadn't learned to set them properly yet. At the same time, Toyosi was becoming more and more assertive, maybe disrespectfully. She was getting more assertive about making sure she wasn't left out in the dark about anything that went down in their relationship. Now, let me tell you, Daniel started to realize that something needed to change. He could either keep spinning his emotional loop in this emotional loop, like it's complete chaos, constantly feeling like he was losing grip, or he could step up and learn to put his foot down. But his foot on who or what? Toyosi or the extended family and friends? And guess what? He chose to protect his family first. Smart man. Slowly but surely, Daniel started drawing boundaries, and that's when the healing process began. But it wasn't without its fair share of arguments, misunderstandings, and moments of doubt. But here's the thing. Marriage isn't all sunshine and rainbows. Nope. You'll have these days and those days where you're trying to figure out how to love your partner without feeling like you're losing yourself in the process. For Toyosi, it wasn't just about the trust. It was about knowing that even when the storms came, she would still stand tall. She may not have 100% trust, but she trusted that Daniel would always try his best. And you know what? That's a huge win in itself for them. Now, let's talk about something that may be uncomfortable for some of you. Insecurity. We all have it, whether we like to admit it or not. Men, women, young, old, insecurity doesn't discriminate. And Daniel, despite being the star actor, right, Nollywood, he had his own insecurities. For him, it was about being able to assert himself in a relationship with a strong, assertive woman. But that insecurity didn't make him weak. It made him human. Now, let me say this. Insecurity isn't a crime. It's not something that should make you feel bad about yourself. It's simply a feeling that you need to acknowledge or walk through. And that's exactly what Daniel did. As time went on, he began to handle the assertiveness in his marriage better. And trust me, it wasn't a walk in the park. No, it was a journey of growth. Growth is rewarding, patience, and emotional intelligence. But let's not forget Toyosi. Not so quick. Sorry, ladies. Oh, Bernie. She also had to learn how to trust, how to let go of some of that control, and how to navigate the tricky waters of being with a man who was still learning. She had her own insecurities too, and as a couple, they had to figure out how to walk through those insecurities without letting them consume their marriage. This is what a lot of people are struggling with. So after 7 years, are they in a better place? From what I gather, they are. But here's the thing, no one has it all figured out. Even when you're in a strong relationship, things will still get messy. The difference is knowing how to handle it when it does. Now, let me ask you something. Do you think Toyosi talks too much about her relationship on social media? By saying she doesn't trust Daniel 100%? Did you learn from that, or was it TMI? Too much information? See, they are dragging her right now, so speak, on social media. Okay? One person said, and I quote, Toyosi, rest in Jesus' name. With this your husband, we no fine. If you come marry RMD and Timiningo, now every day you go, they do podcast. Now, obviously, that's a social mad dog, right? Now, another one asked, why are they doing this though? They seem so uncomfortable and unhappy. The laughter looks like she wants to cry. You see, social media monitoring spirits are not your mate. People are reading extra into the content they created, probably in hopes to help someone. I teach power here. You should never accept defeat, much less perceived defeat. Talking about each other's trust level to the public is just a bad idea. That's when presentation and wisdom must kick in. The devil will use your obsession with being right, camouflaged as truth-telling, to destroy you. You see, there's no clear-cut answer to these questions, but it's important to talk about them. Yeah, I acknowledge that. Because relationships, and I mean real relationships, they aren't just about the picture perfect moments we see on social media. They're about the messy, unfiltered, raw truth, a function of time that we don't often show, or to be frank with you, we don't need to show. And before you get all fired up in the comments, let me remind you, if you want to dive deeper into this kind of conversation and figure out how to handle your own personal relationship challenges, whether it's trust, boundaries, communication, I'm here for you. Okay, you can book a free consultation with me via the link in the description below, and we'll talk through your unique story. Now, trust me, sometimes a little one-on-one chat goes a long way. Now, before we round up here, now, what do you think? Should Toyosi have kept her trust issues to herself? Or is it better to air it all out in the public? You know, like washing your dirty linen in public, just because you want to help somebody. What would you have done if you were Daniel, gentlemen, trying to navigate the emotional chaos in the way he did? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, right? I'm really curious to hear what you think about relationships and how you handle challenges in your own love life. Don't forget to hit that like button. If you enjoyed this video, share it with someone who needs to hear this, and subscribe if you haven't already. I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.